I know I used this for the Judge video, but I also figured it would be rather applicable for this one, given the fact that, Sanji basically ends up becoming a chef because he wanted to cook something nice for his mom. That's where, like, this whole little thing started. And now there's this, there's all the food that he cooks for the Straw Hats, that he's made at the Baratier, that he's made for, like, the kids at Punk Hazard, his drive to learn all of this other stuff. Part of it came out of, wanting to find the all blue, all of that. And to be honest, I don't believe, it's like Sanji's dream is to find the all blue. It's not to become the greatest chef in the world. That just happens to be something that he's very, 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 very good at and very, very dedicated to. But the thing is all of that kind of came out of wanting to make something nice for his mom to eat. And I love that. So time to talk about Vinsmoke Sora, the queen of the Germa kingdom, the late wife of Judge, and the mother of Reiju, Ichiji, Niji, Sanji, and Yunji. So, yes, I will point out we don't know a huge amount about her in regards to anything that happened before she married Judge. We don't even know, like, where she necessarily came from. I'm going to talk about some of those theories that I found at the end of the video. Kind of like how, like, with the Germa Kingdom, I talked a little bit how, there are connections to Sora, Warrior of the Sea, at the end of the video there. So, with this, and a little bit in Judge as well. So, here's the thing. We don't know Sora's age. We don't know how old she was when she passed. I did a little bit of, math. And so Judge is currently 56 years old, which means that he was 32 when Reiju was born 24 years ago. And I would assume, given how young Sora looks, to be fair, Judge did not age well. Clearly. And he wasn't exactly the most dashing young man in his youth, from what we saw in the cover story with Vegapunk. But in regards to how old Sora would have been, I would say she was probably, 19, early 20s range when her and Judge probably got married. And given the fact that, Reiju and Sanji and the others were still fairly young when she died, that she would have been, probably mid-20s, not even 30 probably by the time she passed. And of course, in One Piece, and I went over this with some stuff, it's like age differences between, like, husbands and wives is sometimes there. I don't think that's really there for, like Rayleigh and Shocky, but, like, for other couples, we've seen that there is a little bit of an age difference. And in the whole Cake Island arc, there is this, 5-year age difference between Sanji and Pudding, but then again, it's an arranged marriage, and they don't end up getting married anyway. In regards to, like, Sora's backstory, I will go over some of the theories that there is with that at the end of the video, but just as far as we are aware in regards to the facts that we have, just the facts, ma'am, in regards to the facts that we have, we know that at some point Sora married Judge, thereby making her, the queen of the Germa Kingdom. Whether or not she was from another royal family and he married her is stuff that I will go over when I get into the theories in regards to Sora. We know that 24 years ago, she gave birth to Reiju, their only daughter. And then a short while after that, she ended up becoming pregnant with the quadruplets, with Ichiji, Niji, Yonji, and Sanji. And about 3 years later. And that's where things started to go downhill. We know that there is this argument that happens between Sora and Judge when Judge is about to perform this procedure on her and her sons in order to try to take away their human emotions while they are still in her womb, to take away, in her opinion, the emotions that make them human, their ability to have empathy and compassion and to feel shame, to, feel sad, all of those emotions that Judge deems as negative emotions. And we know that she very much despises this idea, and her and Judge have this huge fight that Reiju witnesses. And she's like, you can't do that. You'll take away their humanity. You'll take away what makes them human in the first place. And she's right. Judge refuses to listen to her and ends up, doing the procedure anyway. And we know that then Sora, in an attempt to try to counteract this, what was done during the surgery, she ends up taking a drug. Sometimes it's referred to as poison. Sometimes it's referred to as just some other type of a drug, which may imply that she has some type of a scientific background as well, which I will get to in the theories. Or she may have just been very observant in regards to like what Judge was doing and decided to drink that instead to try to see if she could counteract the effects of the surgery. We know that this doesn't go well. We know that this ends up making her very, very sick and that it slowly is what kills her over time. And that the end result is that Ichiji, Niji, and Yonji are all still what Judge wanted them to be. They all still have the physical modifications that went into them. We know that Judge also did experimenting on Reiju, either later on or while she was still, child, when she was still the only child. And then applied those modifications to the sons before they were born. And Sora was against that. We know that Judge was not able to take away Reiju's emotions because she still has them. And we see, throughout all of like the Sanji backstory and all of her interactions with Sora, that Reiju still very much has her emotions and she still has them during the whole Cake Island arc. It's just the boys that don't have their, the negative emotions, as they're referred to by Judge, or the weak emotions, the emotions that make you weak. And we know that from drinking this medicine or whatever it is, that Sora becomes very sick, but she still ends up giving birth to all 4 boys. And in the process, she ends up just becoming very, very sickly and is basically bedridden for the rest of her life. And we know that she probably doesn't see the boys very often. We know that Reiju does come and visit her a lot during this time frame and like tells her mom what's going on about Sanji, what's going on with the boys, how bad they are, how mean they are to Sanji, and how Reiju has to play along with them in order to not get beat up herself, how Judge praises the boys for, the other 3 for everything that they do, and how he's just disappointed in Sanji and everything. But Sora makes the comment that she has no regrets in regards to what she did, because it appears that Sanji, at the very least, has signs of kindness, which she probably hears about from Reiju because, we know that even as a child, probably before his mother died, Sanji had been, he'd been kind to the mice and the rats that lived in the castle, tried to make them food, different things like that, as we see in the little flashbacks with him. And Judge got very angry about that stuff, and he probably would rant and rave about it around the castle, and then Reiju would hear about it or have witnessed it in the first place, and then go and tell her mother, and that would have made Sora very happy. We know that Sanji did adore his mother. We have never actually seen, as far as I can remember, we've never actually seen Sora around Ichiji, Niji, or Yonji. We've never seen anything that have those 3 interacting with her. Because we don't ever really see, beyond like a couple of photographs of Sora, we don't see any like a big family portrait of all of them together. There's the one portrait that's Judge doing the conquering or the conquest of the 4 kingdoms or the 4 kings or whatever, but there's not really anything that shows like Sora as a portrait beyond, when they had her big state funeral type of a thing. And you would think that there would be at least something if the boys went and visited her. But the thing is that in Judge's mind at this point in time, Sora has outlived her usefulness. She gave him Reiju, and then she gave him the 4 sons. And if you want to go with my theory of he wants to make like an equivalency of each of the members of the Germa Double Six in Sora, Warrior of the Sea, then he's good. He doesn't need any more children. He doesn't need any others. Beyond possibly wanting to replace Sanji, but, he's not that worried about that at the moment. He's just more ashamed and whatever, in regards to Sanji. So, what we end up seeing is, of course, there is the moment where Sanji makes the food for his mom, and he goes and visits her in the sick bay, the medical ward area where she is attended by her nurse, a pony. And we know that Sanji, makes the dinner bento box for her, and on the way there, it gets kind of destroyed, and then a pony tries to replace it with a better one, and then Sora just looks at it, and she looks at them, and she's like, no, I want the one that Sanji made for me. And they give her that, and it looks like it's giving off the, the poison vibes and stuff like that we've seen in anime and manga and everything. And she eats it, and it tastes delicious. And she says that it tastes delicious. And, Sanji was just, so worried that whole time that he wasn't going to make anything that she would like. And she just really loves it. And he's, so happy about that. And we see them interact. And Sanji and Reiju are the only two children that we see Sora interact with. And beyond the argument that we see Sora and Judge have in Reiju's flashback, we really don't ever see Sora and Judge interact either in that regard. Which implies that Judge probably never went and visited her. As I stated in the Judge video, comparisons can be made between Judge and Endeavor in regards to supposedly wanting to have the perfect child and doing multiple attempts to get said perfect child. But, at the very least, Endeavor, as we have seen in the most recent chapter of My Hero Academia, in regards to the Todoroki family, is well aware of all the mistakes that he made, and while he knows he can't make up for them, he's going to at least do his best to try to do something to fix whatever he can for his remaining family and for, Toya/Dabi and everything like that. Just spend as much time as they will allow with him, so that way he can at least try to make up for that. He knows he never can. The thing is the difference between Endeavor and Judge is that, while Endeavor wants to try to make things better because he's realized his mistakes, Judge has no interest in that. And, in regards to, Sora versus Rei, or in comparison, not really versus, I think Sora and Rei would get along just fine if they met in real life. In the Anime Moms Club. They would probably get along just fine. And they would just gush about their kids and everything like that. Oh, your boy wants to be a chef? My boy's gonna be a hero. Oh, they both have fire powers. That's so cool. There would be that conversation going on there. But, there's similarities that can be drawn there between the Vinsmoke family and the Todoroki family. But, in regards to Sora, she very much, adores her children. As I said, we never see her with the other three, just Reiju and Sanji. And while it would have been interesting to see something of her and the other three, see the other three boys interact with her at least a little bit in a flashback, that would have been nice, just to see what type of, whatever. And I mean, if she would praise them, I'm sure they would like it, but they wouldn't care that she died, because that's what happens. She dies. And, 13 years ago is when she dies. And, all of the citizens are sad. Reiju is, of course, heartbroken about this because she adores her mother. Sanji is heartbroken about this for the same reason. Judge has this grave made for her and everything. And just, he has the grave, the monument made for her, and has the big state funeral and everything. But he's just doing this for the optics of the citizens, to make it appear that he is this mourning and grieving husband and king at the loss of his wife and queen and everything. But that's not the case at all. He is just she's had her usefulness, and had she survived and been healthy, maybe I would have had to try to have more children with her. But she wasn't, and it would have killed her either way, and I probably would have lost the baby, so I'm not going to worry about it. And it's just for optics is why he does that for the funeral. And then almost immediately after that, he then berates Sanji for the fact that Sanji has kindness and compassion and everything like that. and that he is, that he blames, he's angry at Sanji and everything like that, when I think there may have been some part of Judge that loved Sora, and that's one of the reasons why he cannot bring himself to kill Sanji, is because of the fact that he did love Sora, and that Sora and Sanji look so much alike, and he can't bring himself to do that. But he also can't bring himself to want to look at Sanji, hence why Sanji gets locked up in the dungeon. And, there is kind of this, the legacy that Sora has, or that Sora has left behind, is basically, is Reiju and Sanji. It's the fact that both of them have their humanity, have their emotions that allow them to be fully and truly human. Yes, Reiju has to kind of suppress those at times when it comes to dealing with her brothers, and when she has to do it in regards to surviving as, Judge's daughter and everything like that. And, and Sanji manages to escape with Reiju's help and everything, as I'll go over in a lot more detail in Reiju's video next. But there is that concept that Sora's sacrifice has led to both of these, to two of her 5 children, still having their emotions, still having this ability to be good people, be full humans. Yeah, just because you have all of your emotions doesn't mean that you're going to be a good human. Take a look at Doflamingo. He has access to all of his emotions. He's just not a good person. And Judge technically still has access to all of his emotions. He's just not a good person either. Same thing with a lot of other people. But in this regard, Sora's, legacy is within 2 of her children. And should Ichiji, Niji, and Yonji ever have this moment where, because we don't know how they felt about their mother. Assumedly, they probably went and visited her while she was sick, but that may not have resulted in anything to the point where it affected them. But because we have never seen anything like that, we don't know. Some part of Sora's legacy may still live on in them. It just depends on what happens. And we know that, because of Sora's kindness, that, that kindness that she cherished is, lives on in, those 2. And we know that years and years and years later, when, during the, in Whole Cake Island first, when Reiju is helping Sanji escape from Cacao Island, she's having these visions of, her mother and Sanji, these, kind of overlaid memories of her mother saying how much of a good person Sanji was, and that, that her kindness survives in him. And Reiju tells that to him, tells that to Sanji, when they're talking in the hospital ward after he finds out about the plan and Pudding's powers and everything like that. And Reiju tells him about their mother, and tells him about her flashback and everything. And so there's that conversation that happens there. And then, of course, when he manages to escape Cacao Island, there's that, that he has stayed good despite all of the cruelty that was inflicted upon him by their father. Because Sanji could have turned into his brothers. And I've seen fan art where everything's flipped, where Sanji is the one that has all of the, that doesn't have any of the negative emotions, and where the other 3 do. Or it glitches at times in the other 3, so they go from being mean to being kind, but not being able to process that emotion correctly, so they're not quite doing it right, but they're trying, type of a thing, and different things like that. Or I've seen fan art where it's just oh, Judge died and Zora's the one that survived, and she raised all of them, and then she ran away, and then she married Zeph, and then all the kids have blonde hair. Or some combination of that. So I've seen those, and those are adorable for all the different fan art that, is out there about Sora and the Vinsmokes and everything like that. But the other thing that is the last little bit of Sora's legacy at the moment that we've seen is, of course, during Sanji's battle with Queen, when he decides that he's not going to use the raid suit anymore because it keeps messing with his body modifications, that it's activated the body modifications in them. Inside of him, and he, destroys the raid suit and then fights Queen using, his own power. Sanji still has those modifications in place. He still has like the this steel body or whatever it is and stuff like that, which will be probably very helpful in regards to fighting the Gorosei. As we saw, Noshiro like bit Sanji and Sanji was fine for the most part as far as we could tell. But we'll have to see how that kind of plays out in the end, see if we see anything else with Sora pop up at any point in time. I know that when we kind of started to find out about Sanji's past, that there were a lot of people referring back to the moment in Jaya when they find like the picture under the water, and that Sanji is sad when he's looking at the picture of the lady with the spear through it, that now people are like, oh, maybe that connects back to Lily at this point in time. But initially, like when Sora started getting brought up, it's like, oh, he's looking at that because it's reminding him of his mother. Which, true, is quite possible, but we'll have to see what happens. That's pretty much what we have for like facts about Sora, and now I'm going to go into the different theories. So one of the theories is the naming theories, where it's the fact that like, Zoro's mother is Terra, which is Earth, and Zoro has green hair because reasons, and that Sanji's mother's name is Sora, and that's like sky, because, the sky is, Sora, is what that means. And I'm like, but Sanji's color isn't blue. Sanji's color is yellow, because his hair is yellow. Frankie's color is blue. So like, there's that. And then there's like the whole question of like that ties into the weird naming scheme of like, well, does that mean that Imu, because it means ocean backwards, is Luffy's mom? And I'm like, I don't think so. If that was the case, I don't think Imu would want her son dead. If that was the case there. But then again, I guess it would depend on how much of a threat Luffy is. But we're not going to worry about that right now. One of the other theories that I saw, and I couldn't find very many of these, so I was just kind of looking all over to see what types of theories I could find in regards to like Sora connections and stuff like that. So one of the other connections that I found, or that is a thought that people have had, is like, well, Sora could have been connected to Mads. The only scientists that we know about that were part of Mads were, of course, Vegapunk, Judge, Caesar, Queen, and then Miss Buckingham Stussy. In regards to, Miss Stussy now, and of course the one who is the clone of, is who Stussy currently is cloned from. That there is possibly a connection there, that maybe Sora had been part of the Mad Science group as well. We just don't see her in the flashback. And that there could be a connection there. Or that maybe she had some other connection to Vegapunk, like maybe she was Vegapunk's niece, maybe there was a connection there, and that's how, how Judge met her during all of that time frame. And then later on, when Mads fell apart, when they were attacked by the government, and then Vegapunk and Caesar went to work for the government and everything, and Judge fled, and Queen ended up to go work with Kaido and everything. Since we don't know the exact year that all of that happened, there's conclusions that we can draw from, or speculation that can happen there. But there's the question of like, well, was Sora one of the other scientists, and then like her and Judge escaped together, and then maybe he managed to romance her and then get her to marry him, and then blah 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 blah. I will use you as my experiments deem necessary. And she's like, wait a second, I didn't sign up for this. And then there's like a stupid contract. She's like, damn it, I should have read the fine print, type of a thing. But I do think that she married him for, depending on the circumstances, she could have married him for love, but there's also another, connections that could be drawn. There is another concept that maybe she's like the granddaughter of Dr. Tsukimi, who is like the old guy that dies in the cover story, who has like made the automatons and was from, I think he was from Karakuri Island or so, where Vegapunk was from, where Frankie went during the 2-year time skip, that there may have been a connection there. But I'm not sure. That there could have been connections there, that maybe Reiju, or that Sora was his granddaughter or something, had some connection to a scientist, and that's how, Judge knew her, and maybe that's how she knew that, oh, if I drink this chemical or whatever, maybe that will counteract what Judge did to my children. Poisons her in the process, but technically is a 1 in 4 success in regards to Sanji. So there's possibilities there that she could have a connection in that regard. The other connection that people like to draw is, does she have a celestial dragon connection? And those connections could be, like, there was theories that, like, oh, maybe she's Stussi's sister. And given now that we know that Stussi is a clone of Miss Barkane, that there's the question of, like, well, maybe not sister, but maybe Sora was... Well, I guess she could have still been a clone, but she looks different enough from Stussi that I don't think that would be the case at the moment. But there could have been another connection there. Maybe Stussi, or maybe there was a connection there, but I'm not sure. There's also the concept that, like, Sanji kind of has, like, Cypher Pole vibes to him, as some people point out, so maybe there's a connection there. Maybe Sora had been, like, an aunt, possibly, to, like, Khalifa and Alufa, if there is a family connection there between those two, that maybe she was the sister of the guy who's their father, who was part of CP9 when everything happened in O'Hara and everything. Latchkey, I think is his name, that maybe there's a connection there. I doubt it, but there's a possibility of that maybe there's some type of a connection there. And the other connection in regards to, like, Celestial Dragon connection is, and this was kind of, like, before we knew names and stuff like that of the Gorosei, was the question of, like, well, could Sora be a Celestial Dragon? There may have been something special about her that Judge wanted in regards to having to be his wife, and he may have been like, oh, well, if I could get my hands on a Celestial Dragon, or the child of Celestial Dragon, maybe via a slave, since we don't know the exact concept for, like, clearly, like, a child born to 2 Celestial Dragons would be considered a Celestial Dragon, but, like, if it's a child born to a Celestial Dragon and a slave, does that mean that Celestial Dragon is still, that baby is considered a Celestial Dragon? Are they considered, like, a half-blood, if we're going to go with Harry Potter terms? Or are they considered, because they're not a full Celestial Dragon, that they're just whatever, they're not deemed anything useful? Kind of like Bonnie, in regards to what happened with Ginny and Bonnie and everything like that. Bonnie's biological father is a Celestial Dragon. Probably not Saturn, probably someone else, but, there is that suggestion there, and it's just like, but does that mean that she's considered a Celestial Dragon? Probably not. If they allowed Ginny to leave with her. Then again, Ginny may have just managed to sneak Bonnie out of, Marie's Wall, just adds to, Ginny's badassness. But there is the question of, like, well, could Sora have this connection to one of the Gorosei? Because we haven't really seen that many other Celestial Dragon families, and the really only other one that we've seen beyond Doflamingo's branch of the Doflamingo family is Shepherd Jupiter, the godhead of agriculture, and the sandworm dude, who is, currently having to deal with a sun god on an island of technology and trying to hunt down a snail. So there is a question there. And it's like, oh, well, could Sora have been his daughter with a slave, and he just didn't really have much use for her, and maybe Judge made an appeal or something like that, because the Germa Kingdom does have, connections to the world government. Maybe he, made some type of an offer or something and bought Sora, and then, like, freed her, and then, like, said, no, now you serve me instead, type of a thing. But we're not sure. There could be a connection there. But it's like, if you go by the fact of, oh, every blonde person in the story could be connected, I'm like, Black Maria is blonde. I don't think there's a connection there beyond the fact that she beat up Sanji. And And, there doesn't have to be a connection between every single blonde character in One Piece. There's a fair number of blonde characters in One Piece. I'm not going to list them all, but there's a fair number of them. And that doesn't mean that they're all connected in regards to, like, family connections or whatever. But there is, like, this concept that, like, well, what if there is this case? Because then that means that, like, Sanji has celestial dragon blood or something like that. And, maybe Jupiter knows and he doesn't care. He sold his own daughter off or something like that. So why would he care about, if her son is, a pirate? It's like, I don't care. My grandson's a pirate. Doesn't matter to me. I didn't claim his mom anyway, so it doesn't matter. I got rid of her. So there's questions there that could be, extrapolated from, and we may never find anything out about Sora. She may have just been a princess from another royal family that Judge conquered and then married her, or she may have been someone who was a very, very distant relative within the Vinsmoke family and he chose her because she had Vinsmoke blood, or something along those lines. Since we don't know anything else about, like, the Germa family tree or the Vinsmoke family tree, there's not much other conclusion we can draw from that. And it may have just been he just picked her because she was pretty and maybe was smart enough, and he was like, I can use her genetics and she'll be fine. My children will be, at the very least beautiful and, attractive or whatever. So there's that possibility there too. And it may just be we never find out because I don't know if anyone's asked any other, like, SBS questions about her, or if they have, Oda just hasn't answered them yet, because it's like that explains something that'll be explained later on in the story if we find out any other information, when we find out more stuff about the other Gorosei. It's like we got part of a flashback or backstory in regards to Saturn, how it connects with Kuma and Ginny and everything like that, and Bonnie, but, we don't know if we're going to get flashbacks or, like, connections like that with each of the other 4 Gorosei, just to help make us despise each of them even more than we already do, type of a thing. So we'll just have to wait and see if we get any other information about Sora down the line. I'm not really expecting it, but it would be interesting. Also, there is the drawing the connections between Sora Vinsmoke and Sora Warrior of the Sea, and the fact that maybe the whole frickin' reason Judge chose her as his bride and as his queen and as the mother of his children was because she happened to have the same name as the hero from the comic series that is, disrespectful and making fun of his family and his kingdom and his legacy, his heritage. And it's just like, you're going to be my wife because I need to have something to have a connection there, so you're coming with me, type of thing. That could have been the whole thing. That he found her specifically because she had the name Sora. But we don't know. It's like that's either a coincidence that they have the same name, or it is very much one of the reasons why Judge married her in the first place. So that's what I have for Sora. Next up for this series will be Reiju, and then I'll have a video about the 3 boys, because as I stated, Sanji's not getting a video in the series because he's the main character. There's a lot of information there, and he doesn't consider himself a Vinsmoke, so I'm not going to worry about it. So, don't worry, Sanji, you're not gonna get a video talked about you in this series. Although I'll talk about you in regards to, like, this video, Judge's video, Reiju's video, the videos with your brother and all of that, with your brothers and all of that stuff, but not one specifically about you. Is that okay? Okay, good. You're talking to a book. I've done weirder things. So that's what I have. I thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you have any other theories about, like, who Sora may have connections to, put them in the comments. Maybe I'll do something else with them. We'll see. So that's what I have. Thanks for watching. Have a nice rest of your day. Bye.